Welcome back to World Decoder. Today, we look beyond dry numbers to explore the dramatic rise and fall of a titan. We discuss a king who once stood atop the world, crafting the brains for nearly every computer you have ever touched. But suddenly, this powerful monarch found himself lost and confused within a new era that he did not help to create. This is the story of Intel, a giant struggling to tear down and rebuild its own empire in a new era. Let us travel back to the 90s and 2000s, when the name Intel was not just a brand, but religion. The iconic sticker and the famous 5-note jingle were the ultimate affirmation of power for a technological nation at that time. Back then, Intel was like an untouchable king living securely inside a fortress that no enemy could ever hope to breach. They were both the architects designing the chips and the blacksmiths forging them in their own massive private foundry factories. While the rest of the world had to rent and outsource, Intel did everything with their own hands, controlling every single step. They held Moore's Law like a sacred Bible, believing that chip power would reliably double every 2 years without any failure. At that time, if you wanted to use a computer, you had to pay tribute to the mighty empire of Intel. They were so wealthy and powerful that people believed Intel would dominate the human race for all of eternity to come. But the tragedy of giants often begins with arrogance, and the storm was gathering quietly just outside their high castle walls. In 2005, a young visionary named Steve Jobs knocked on Intel's door, proposing chips for a device called iPhone. He wanted Intel to manufacture chips for this small device, but the Intel CEO at that time simply shook his head. He calculated that the profits from those tiny phones were not worth the time or effort for a giant like Intel. He essentially said, "No thank you, we are too busy making chips for computers to worry about your little phone project." That single refusal became a mistake worth trillions of dollars, a decision that would haunt the company for decades to come. Intel was busy enjoying their old glory, while the entire world began a massive shift towards the era of mobile devices. While Intel stood still, rivals like TSMC in Taiwan began learning how to forge sharper and more sophisticated silicon swords. When Intel finally woke up from their long slumber, they realized they had fallen far behind in the nanometer race. The fortress that once seemed invincible began to show deep cracks, and the foundation of their empire started to shake violently. In 2021, facing a crisis of confidence, they summoned a former veteran named Pat Gelsinger to save the ship. Pat was not just a typical businessman in a suit. He was a veteran engineer who considered Intel to be his blood. Pat walked into the office and announced a crazy strategy called IDM 2.0, deciding to open the gates of the fortress. Intel would no longer just make chips for itself, but would become a foundry for everyone, including their former fierce rivals. Pat poured hundreds of billions of dollars into empty lands in Ohio, Arizona, and Germany to build the largest factories ever. He declared that the world needs a balanced supply chain, reducing reliance on a single region for critical technology needs. He said if TSMC is the beating heart of Asia, then Intel must become the sturdy backbone of the Western world. Now let us fast forward to the year 2026. All eyes in the tech world are on one weapon. This weapon is named Intel 18A. It is not just a production process. It represents the pride and dignity of Intel. They introduced PowerVia, a smart method of moving the power supply to the back of the chip to organize the mess. Instead of a tangled mess of wires on top, this innovation helps the chip run cooler, faster, and more efficiently than ever. If 18A succeeds, Intel will officially reclaim the crown from TSMC, but if it fails, it could be the final end. This is a gamble of all or nothing. A legendary company is fighting for its very survival in a ruthless market. The story of Intel is not just about silicon or transistors. It is a profound story about humility after a failure. It teaches us that even if you are a giant, if you stop running, you will eventually be left behind. But if you are brave enough to face your mistakes and rebuild, you always have a chance to write a new chapter. A king may fall, but a true warrior always knows how to rise from the ashes and stand tall once again. The legacy of innovation continues, driven by those who refuse to accept defeat and constantly strive for the impossible. From personal computers to the cloud and beyond, the heartbeat of technology relies on these tiny, powerful squares of silicon. Collaboration has replaced isolation. The fortress walls are down, and bridges are being built to connect the world of technology. Across the globe, machines are humming, and the supply chain is becoming stronger, more resilient, and ready for future challenges. We often forget that behind every screen we use is a miracle of engineering that took decades to perfect. Time moves fast in the tech industry. What is cutting edge today becomes obsolete tomorrow if innovation does not continue. This chip might be remembered as the turning point that saved the legacy, or the final effort of a fading star. The lessons from Intel apply to all of us. Success is never guaranteed, and complacency is the enemy of progress. The race never ends. There is no finish line in technology, only the next milestone and the next challenge to overcome. But for now, the lights in the factories are burning bright, and the engineers are working harder than ever before. Transformation is painful, but it is necessary. The old shell must be shed for the new form to emerge stronger. With a steady hand at the wheel, the ship is slowly turning around, navigating through the roughest waters it has seen. Soon, these new chips will power our laptops, our servers, and the artificial intelligence that is reshaping our daily lives. As we enter the age of AI, the demand for computing power is exploding, giving Intel a massive new opportunity. Wall Street may be skeptical, but engineers know that the laws of physics and innovation ultimately decide the true winner. It is not just about profits. It is about enabling the next generation of thinkers, creators, and problem solvers globally. The world is more connected than ever, and the silicon beneath the surface is the invisible glue holding it all together. Experience meets fresh perspective. The wisdom of the past is guiding the energy of the future to solve complex problems. There is a certain beauty in these wafers, a perfect blend of science, art, and extreme precision manufacturing capabilities. Competition is good for everyone. It forces companies to innovate faster, resulting in better technology for you and me. We have come a long way from the beige boxes of the 90s to the sleek devices we carry today. Whether for gaming, working, or creating, we demand more power, and Intel is fighting hard to deliver that performance. Behind the cloud are millions of chips working in harmony, processing the data of the entire human population every second. Leadership is about inspiring belief when things are tough. Pat has managed to reignite the spark within the company culture. Governments are also involved, understanding that chip manufacturing is a matter of national security and economic stability for the future. The concrete is being poured, the steel is rising, and the foundation for the next era is being laid down. It is humbling to think that something so small can control the destiny of massive corporations and global economies. Technology has become an extension of ourselves. The better the chips, the more we can achieve as a human species. Even rivals can respect each other. The battle is fierce, but it pushes the boundaries of what is physically possible. Automation and precision are key. One speck of dust can ruin a chip, so perfection is the only acceptable standard. Intel is walking out of the dark tunnel. The light is visible, but they must keep moving forward to reach it. Public perception changes slowly, but consistent execution and undeniable results will eventually silence the critics and win back the trust. The potential of silicon is far from exhausted. We are just scratching the surface of what computers will eventually do. He believes in his team, he believes in the plan, and most importantly, he believes that Intel belongs at the top. Our digital planet relies on these companies. Their success translates to better tools for scientists, doctors, and artists everywhere. Remember the message of this episode. A king may fall, but a warrior will always find a way to rise. As mass production begins, the world will soon see if this gamble pays off and reshapes the industry landscape. The excitement of new technology is universal. We all love the feeling of speed and power in our new devices. Intel is alive, kicking, and fighting. The sleeping giant has awakened, and the industry is better off because of it. Behind the brand are people. Thousands of brilliant minds working together to solve the hardest physics problems on the planet. The sun sets on the old era, but it rises on a new one. The valley keeps evolving, never stopping. We hope you enjoyed this deep dive into the business and technology of one of the most important companies ever. If you found this story inspiring, please share it. Knowledge is the only resource that grows when you share it. Thank you for spending your time with World Decoder. Stay curious, keep learning, and we will see you next time.